Looking for a weeknight meal that's something a little bit different? This is for you. Hi, I'm Cassie, and if this is your first time to the channel, welcome to my kitchen in the suburbs of Japan. Today we're going to be making something called Soboro don. Soboro means mincemeat or crumbly meat, and don means rice bowl. So whenever you see something called something don in Japan, the don means on rice. There's another name for this, which is sanshoku don, which means 3 colors rice bowl. So the 3 colors that we have today are brown, yellow, and green. This can be made with any kind of meat or fish. I've seen it quite often with salmon, and I've seen it with other types of meat, but today we're going to be using chicken. So let's take a look at the ingredients. Okay, so just before we get started, I want to say I'm really excited because I have a brand new camera. This is the Sony a6400. So if you have that camera or you have any tips or favorite lenses for food photography, then please let me know. But let's take a look at those ingredients. Okay, so first up for our ingredients, the main components of our Soboro don are chicken and egg. And we'll actually be using 2 eggs. But you can just use chicken mince. However, I find that with chicken mince, then it gets quite dry. And I don't really like the dry version of this, so I use chicken thigh and then I just cut it up myself, and you get quite a different kind of juicier chicken. And so the Soboro actually means like a crumbly meat, but this is going to be a little bit different with more variation, more texture variation, and a little bit of taste variation too. Then continuing with our fresh ingredients, we have ginger and spring onion. And so the spring onions are going to go in raw, so remember to wash these before you use them. And for the ginger, it's just going to add a kind of nice accent to the chicken. Then we have all of our seasonings. So we have our usual 4 ingredients of Japanese cooking, which is soy sauce, mirin, sake, which is always optional, you can just use water, and sugar. And of course, I will be putting links to these down below. Lastly, we have this Benishoga, which is a super bright pink color, and it's basically just pickled ginger, and we're just going to put that over the top. So let's get cooking. So first off, let's chop up everything that we need to chop. So I like to start off with the kind of vegetables first so that I'm not cutting on a meaty board. So let's start with the ginger. So I'm just going to cut off about 1 inch of ginger here. And I'm just going to take off the outer skin. And then I'm just going to grate it using this, which is actually a kind of wasabi grater, but I always use this for garlic and ginger and anything else that you can sort of grate into a puree, basically. So you kind of end up with this little bit here when you grate like this. You can just throw it away, but I prefer to just cut it up into a very fine mince and then add it to the rest of the ginger. Then next up is the spring onions. This is going to go onto our bowl raw, so do make sure that you've washed it. And also it's totally up to you as to how thick or thin you cut this, and I suppose up to your cutting skills. And then we're going to cut up the chicken. Of course, if you've bought chicken mince or any other kind of mince, then you can skip this part. As I mentioned at the beginning, then I like to use chicken thigh because it has less chance of going dry like chicken breast. And the fat and the skin actually give it quite a good flavor and also, again, help with that juiciness. So I would recommend keeping that in. I always find it a little bit hard to mince chicken, but basically I'm just going to sort of cut it into smaller manageable pieces and then cut it into strips and then just chop all over it with my knife. And just before we get on to cooking, then I'm going to make the sauce, which is actually basically a teriyaki sauce. It has all of the same components. It's got the soy sauce, mirin, sake, and sugar. And to get that really brown color, so that it's a different color to the eggs, then I do use 2 tablespoons of soy sauce in comparison to 1 tablespoon of everything else. I just find that if you don't do that and you kind of do it at the same level as everything else, then it just looks a very similar color to the egg, especially if you put soy sauce in the egg, especially if you put too much soy sauce in the egg, and then you kind of don't really know what's chicken and what's egg, and it doesn't look like a 3-color donburi anymore. It just looks like a 2-color donburi. Okay, so now let's get cooking. Okay, so first up I'm going to put in a little bit of oil. We don't need to put in too much because our chicken thigh is quite fatty. And then I'm just going to put in the ginger. We're just going to lightly fry this for about 30 seconds until it gets fragrant. Oops. Ah. Too hot, too hot, too hot. And the reason that I do this at first is because I just want a kind of ginger accent to my chicken. I don't want to make it taste overly potent. Whereas if you put it in at the end, then you get a very gingery flavor. Right. Then we're adding in all of the chicken mince. So first just do this on a kind of low heat to break up the chicken, and then we'll bring it up to a medium heat. So the heat is now on a medium. Okay, I can't see any pink left now, so let's turn down the heat a tad because we don't want it spattering everywhere. And then we're going to add in the sauce. And so I'm just cooking this on a medium heat, and we're going to just keep going until most of the liquid is gone. I think we can just about turn this off. You can kind of tell when the sides here get a sort of rim of sugary crust. Okay, so now the chicken is ready. We're going to get a separate pan and we're going to make the eggs. So first I'm just going to quickly whisk up the eggs with a little bit of soy sauce and some sugar. You really don't want to put in too much soy sauce because then it will go brown and it will look the same color as the chicken, and we don't want that. We want a nice bright yellow egg against the sort of darker brown of the chicken. If you don't really like the sweet taste, then you can of course omit the sugar, but typically Soboro is... My rice is done. But typically Soboro is pretty sweet, so I recommend just trying it this way the first time, and then if you don't like it, then you can just omit sugar the next time. So now we're going to put in enough oil to coat the pan, and we're going to add our eggs. I do this on a kind of medium-low heat, and usually I just kind of wait until there's a little bit of lighter yellow just around the edges, and then you just start stirring it with your chopsticks. And just keep stirring and stirring and stirring until you have these smaller pieces of egg. I prefer it with a little bit of, again, just a little bit of texture variation, so I wait just a little bit before I start stirring it. And then all there is to do is to plate it up in a way that really accentuates all those 3 colors. And there you have it, our Soboro don. I really like how easy this is to make, and it's especially even more easy when you use pre-minced meat, of course, but I love to make this on a weeknight after work when I just want something that is a low fuss recipe. It is quite sweet and it has that kind of concentrated teriyaki vibe to it, but I love these spring onions and how they bring out a kind of brightness to the dish. If you learned anything today, then don't forget to subscribe for more Japanese recipes, but that's it for today, so I'll see you next Sunday. Bye!